Thank you all for coming. Let's hear from everyone. Displacement and Protest in Washington, DC. It takes a lot more than 51 minutes to have that conversation, but I really love what they did with this piece. Again, I am Micha Green. I am a features content editor with the Baltimore Sun, but born and raised in Washington, DC, and was the DC editor for the Afro-American newspapers for about 5 years. So I was very involved in covering a lot of the recent images that you all saw, particularly the Don't Mute DC protests and rallies, as well as the rallies and protests surrounding Black Lives Matter in 2020. So I've been asked by Long Live Go-Go DC and yada yada, and I want to thank them so much for having me here to just have a little bit of a conversation to sort of digest what we saw in this fantastic film. I by no means can take credit for any of these wonderful thoughts and the artists who made this documentary come to life, but I have been very involved in these sorts of conversations and would love to sort of hear you all's feedback, as well as give Long Live Go-Go some feedback on what you thought about the piece. Thanks for coming. That said, or not, you're not gonna also just leave. No, I'm joking. So with that said, I gave you all a couple of things to think about before. I know some folks trailed in, but one was just awesome memories in Washington, DC. And this brings back, with all of these heavy images, I have so many great memories in watching this. And so does anyone want to just share some of the positivity that came from tuning into this film today, or some sort of emotions or experiences that came up from watching this? Yes, please.
I would say a sense of nostalgia, not just for the past, but for, well, nostalgia is not the right word, actually. Nostalgia for the deep past of the 60s, but the part of the movement that he's capturing in the 20s, that really made me feel emotional. There's a lot that makes me emotional about this film. But just reflecting on what it was like in the city during the Trump administration, you know, when everything was all boarded up and stuff. And it's very powerful. It's almost like, wow, it's amazing that we went through that. You know, because I'm sure maybe some of you, but I was down there quite a bit.
Yeah.
And to see all that damage, to see the unity of people coming together, but it also makes me think about, what if this individual were to run again, and would everything return to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I have a number of different thoughts. I'm in the film.
I was gonna say, I didn't want to be that person that put you out there, but your thoughts were so fabulous. Can you just introduce yourself for everyone?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Sabia Prince. I'm an anthropologist.
So, and please, by all means, if you want to kind of come up and give feedback for others, but one thing that sort of stood out to me in what you talk about in the film is the sense of alienation that we as Washingtonians, Native Washingtonians, sort of experience in walking down these streets in places that we've known and seen for so long, and losing pieces of the culture in that. And one of the other things I asked folks to think about was music and protests and how it's intertwined. We see it so clearly. But we know protest music. I had to go back and do some digging. Yankee Doodle was a protest song. Okay, one of my favorites is Strange Fruit, and I'm a huge Kendrick Lamar fan, so pretty much anything he's done in the past decade or so has been, we could call protest music, right? But this is a little different because the music is so intertwined to the culture. It is the culture. It's what makes sort of, at least for many Washingtonians, it's what makes DC DC is go-go music. And so that sense of alienation that we talk about was so real to me, because I remember that feeling. I remember when the music went away, right? And sort of how we get that back. And so anybody have thoughts on, you know, I think this piece does a great job of talking about where we are, but sort of next steps. Anyone have thoughts about what we can do to sort of hold on to the culture? I think Long Live Go-Go is a great example of what we can do, but any other thoughts from watching this film? You are the expert. I mean,
Equity is a word that people throw around a lot. But it needs to happen in a structural way and in an institutional way. So often, individuals are responsible for doing things. It's up to the individual, and yeah, we all play our role. But, you know, we put a lot of resources into this system, and we deserve equity in terms of having those resources distributed equally. So, equity in arts funding, for example, that would help to spread go-go, support community, support young kids. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one thing. You know, I'm sure other people have ideas about what we can do as individuals. But I'm interested in systems. As a person who's interested in real social justice, you know. Yeah,
well, so we can just have a powwow, y'all. But I was watching the documentary before this, which was on Black Broadway on You, and a lot of the really tragic sort of thoughts, which was, you know, it was a beautiful documentary, but sort of the tragedy behind it is that there are 3 Black businesses, original Black businesses from Black Broadway on U Street, and there were hundreds prior to. We saw some of the 1968 footage and sort of how that riot played a role in losing our businesses. But equity is such a great point because there's no funding, right? The district government stopped giving money to Black entrepreneurs. There was only one Black bank. That was Industrial Bank, right? And so not having the funds to start businesses on U Street, to continue businesses on U Street that were lost, during the 1968 riots is part of why we lose some of that, at least in the U Street corridor. And of course, go-go music is far beyond the U Street corridor. But I think that the equity conversation plays a huge role into that, particularly considering the last documentary. The other thing, going back to that, and I can't think of the name of the doc, I will give folks my contact and try to find it later. There's another great documentary I moderated with Long Live Go-Go a couple years ago that talked about the loss of arts funding in schools, right? And so that also was part of losing a lot of our go-go bands because people knew how to play, right? And then suddenly you kind of only can play the drums and not by reading music, and then that sort of is pulled away, and you get the folks who just have learned how to play music in their church or from their friends and things like that. And so going right back to your conversation of equity and improving the system, we're very lucky we still have go-go bands, and we still have Native Washingtonians trying to keep go-go alive, because just those basic things like no music class. You don't get students who can play instruments. Anybody else? One of the things that really stuck out to me was the usage of spoken word in the beginning of this piece. I thought that was really beautiful. Anything else? Any thoughts that someone? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. So my name is Zainab, and I'm a French journalist. So I work for French TV. And before I left France, I was working on gentrification from where I grew up, because there is a new subway station coming, and they are asking families to go out and to sell their house. So I was following this for years, And now I'm here just 3 weeks ago, and I'm watching this, so it's really meaningful for me, even if it's different. So I was wondering, like, how you fight. Do you have examples to, like, example where when community won against real estate, like how you fight and it happened, a win happens or no?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the Long Live Go-Go, Don't Mute DC was a perfect example of the community fighting back and winning against real estate. It's not a piece about Long Live Go-Go, but really I think going more into depth, that whole movement came from the fact that this guy was playing go-go at this Metro PCS that he owned and rented the building for a number of years, but was the business owner for years and did that. And so, a lot of this, I think that was 2019, 2018, 2018, 2019 is sort of when that uprising began, right? And it was all peaceful, but it all was the community coming together, and this is the community at large, so not just the U Street, Shaw area, but all of Washington, DC sort of came out in numbers. I think this almost, because a lot of this footage is from 2020, does not even do justice to how massive the Long Live Go-Go movement itself was. It just shows you a little piece of it. I think this does a great job of showing how intertwined they were, but that was just one very small example of it. If anybody else wants to share any examples, totally. I know another personal example is, again, the community sort of coming and fighting against real estate. Is I'm a graduate of Duke Ellington School of the Arts, which is in upper northwest Washington, DC, but it's in a great location where folks would not like it to be a school specific to art students, and it's public in the sense that DCPS owns some of it, but students have to audition to get in. It's exclusive in many ways, and so over and over again, there have been fights with Georgetown and Georgetown's very affluent community to get the building, and there have been chances there have been very, very close chances where they win, but every single time, I think, again, the district and a lot of Ellington alum, now there are a lot of famous folks with money that they can put behind it, who've been able to fight back against it. It doesn't happen as often as I think one would like. From a journalist to another, I can share other articles with you and things like that. But I think one just really shocking thing I was even looking at, I can't remember the University of Maryland professor who's featured in this, but he gives a rate of 47%, and you say the correct, which is 45% in DC. Right now, it's at 45.8 African Americans living in Washington, DC, according to the last census. 45.9% white Caucasian Americans living in Washington, DC. So we are by 0.1 no longer the majority, and this used to be Chocolate City. So I think that's a really tragic example of where we are going. But I think, there's always hope, right?
I can think of two victories, and you can follow up with some organizers. Power DC had a victory with the Grimmel School.
Oh, the Grimmel School is a great
It's in
one.
IDC.
Yeah.
And the Grimmel School is named for a famous Pan-Africanist, Alexander Grimmel. And that school was closed in the 70s. It was in the heart of that community. And long story short, the mayor was trying to give it to a restaurant owner, and the organizers fought, and they got it turned over to the National Park Service. So that is a big victory.
That's huge.
Because that was going to be just another thing.
Yeah.
And then the Berry Farm thing, which is a documentary coming after this one, that was a partial victory, but it's still in place. We got 5 buildings landmarked. So that was a victory. But then they could take it away from us at any time. So to answer your question, it's all about organizing. You have to organize. That's the solution. Sure, and I can refer you to Power you want to talk to me.
Yes, please.
So I will say, when it comes to go-go, I actually go to Alta now.
What department?
Instrumental.
Oh my gosh! Congrats. Now you can tell me what year.
24.
Okay, you will have quite some time. But yay! We'll talk after. Congratulations.
But one of these go-go bands and one of these planners, Moechella, came to our school.
Yes.
And it's a really big thing. It's like, honestly, I've seen almost a resurgence in go-go music and the culture around go-go. A lot of people in my, I would say generation, but around my age, are really trying to bring go-go back into the mainstream. It's not like it really left, but it definitely took a backseat. Moechella being this big festival where basically it's all about go-go. Mo being slang in DC and the Coachella, and they took that and they made it into this own festival. It happened this year, I'm going to say back in May, and the turnout was great. It was all about bringing back go-go because it's such an integral part of DC. Another thing that happened when it comes to music, something in the water when that happened in DC. Some of the artists that were there that also were go-go artists, bringing that to the main scene. Grammys that having go-go as a thing.
It was like a bit during the Grammys.
Yeah, even though it wasn't televised, the fact that we're just now, it's kind of bittersweet almost because go-go's been a thing for a while now. We're just now getting that representation in this big musical event. But at the same time, it's great that it's happening now.
And I'm so happy you brought up Duke Ellington and being an instrumental student and sort of the resurgence of go-go there. I'm old. I graduated, I think relatively right, but in comparison to you, I graduated in 2009, and there were tons of instrumental students, right? But all of the guys who created the go-go band at Duke Ellington were not instrumentalists, or very few, maybe a drummer. And again, that was because I think there was a little bit of, we all had an appreciation of go-go. It was the music we listened to, but in terms of there being some sort of institutionalized gentrification that can even happen, right? Where, anybody can play go-go, but, not everyone can get on and, I was trying to do a good Duke Ellington song, but I don't want to play with the great. So, but no one can do Beethoven's Fifth, okay? We'll do that, right? Not everyone can do that. And so I think in that way, it's so good that Moechella came to Ellington, right? And again, I think it was unfair. I think it was absolutely fair to say that go-go at one point was not as part of the mainstream of DC culture as it had been, because we lost venues. Only 3 venues people are allowed to perform go-go in Washington, DC. And again, if you don't have the place to perform, why have the music? And so I think, again, fighting back on the systems, creating more venues for people to perform, going to schools like Duke Ellington and other DCPSs and private schools as well, right? And making people aware of how important the culture is, will automatically improve go-go culture, elevate go-go culture to what it deserves, and certainly, I think, continue the protests. Anyone else? I thank you so much. I really am so happy you were here today to not only add your insight in all things, but to just share and be with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate it. If you all have more questions about the documentary, I encourage you to reach out to the Long Live Go-Go folks. I believe they will be streaming this on their platform. It's also for the world to watch here on PBS, so please check it out. I've watched it a few times this weekend, and I always see something new, so it's worth sharing with family over these holidays. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video from NEXTfest Culture and Conversation series, presented by CapitalBop. There is no way to fully replicate the spirit of those days at NEXTfest, but we are so glad to have this curated archive to share with you. At CapitalBop, our mission is to promote, present, and preserve the sound and soul of DC. To stay connected, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or find us at CapitalBop.com. Be sure to subscribe to CapitalBop's YouTube channel for more content like this. And again, that's CapitalBop with an A, CapitalBop.com. Maybe I'll catch you at the next show.